Welcome to the MCL room. We're so excited to tell you more about this role. And as we go through the slides, feel free to send questions in the chat box. Ms. Dixon, if you'll monitor the chat box for me, that would be great. Or if at an appropriate place, feel free to unmute and share as well. So you are in the MCL room. The cornerstone of opportunity culture is this multi-classroom leadership. So what that means is there's small collaborative teaching teams that you would lead as the lead teacher, the MCL. And in order to be successful at this role, you would need to have great leadership skills and a record of high growth student learning. MCLs typically lead teams of 6 or fewer teachers. That's key. Multi-classroom leaders, or MCLs as we call them, ensure high standard lesson plans are created, frequent review of data about student progress, and constant improvement so all students learn. MCLs have significant autonomy to establish the responsibilities for their team members and the collaborative team processes necessary to produce strong student learning. Each school, again, like I mentioned earlier, establishes schedules that create planning and team collaboration time to balance keeping the MCL team small with reaching all grades and core subjects that the MCL is responsible for. Districts establish pay and career paths for the MCLs and the other roles that are sustainable through the school funding. So again, this isn't a grant opportunity for North Carolina. This is here to stay. It is a sustainable model. And as you probably know, MCLs earn significantly more for this leadership and accountability. So let's kind of walk through the day in the life of an MCL. How do they fit all this into a day? Well, on a weekly basis, MCLs engage in both a variety of leadership, guidance, and support activities for both teachers and students. So first of all, MCLs observe and debrief with their teachers. You may see them observing a classroom, facilitating a debrief conversation, or pushing team teachers to achieve their own development goals. Beyond that, the MCL position is really designed to provide significantly more guidance and data-driven improvements over what traditional coaching provides. MCLs are also fully leading a team. This guided, monitored instruction is very common among the highest growth MCL teams. Crucially, it's a small team, whereas coaches serve very large numbers. On average, MCLs focus again on 6 or fewer teachers on their team. MCLs ensure that lessons are high standards, they're differentiated. They also help teachers practice critical lessons. They lead team analysis of student learning data very often, weekly, and they also lead their team to adjust instruction as needed based on that data. MCLs co-teach with their teachers, modeling lessons or leading small group lessons. They also teach students directly. So that could come in the form of pulling small groups of students from their team teachers' classes, providing remediation or extension. They might also be pushing into those classrooms. MCLs are truly seen as a second teacher. Importantly, MCLs are also co-accountable for the student learning growth of their entire team of students. So again, it's that all in this together mentality. For all these activities, MCLs, it's important to remember, MCLs have the time built into their schedule daily to schedule this type of workload. And they work with their school leaders to have strategic scheduling to allow them to do so. So I'm gonna pause for a moment. If there are any questions so far based on anything we've talked about, feel free to unmute yourself or put those questions in the chat. Otherwise, we will keep on moving on. We'll go ahead and watch a video.
The thing that I love about opportunity culture, it allows me to do 2 of my favorite things, to lead, but also to teach as well.
My calling is to be with students. It is to be with the content. So this was an opportunity to do something different, but not actually leave the classroom.
I am very thankful for the MCL position because I can focus on instruction. I can expand my impact and my pay can be competitive.
Co-teaching, modeling, small groups, planning, curriculum development, basically anything and everything a teacher would need to feel successful. That's what an MCL has to do.
Having someone there on a daily basis, checking in, seeing how they're doing, showing them their areas of growth, and then taking action steps to meet those was fantastic.
It's just so rewarding being able to see immediately that you're having a positive impact on the teacher, the students, and just education as a whole.
Those MCLs really get in that classroom. They go in model lessons, co-teach, help them analyze data. They're building common assessments together. The teachers are taking off, from veteran teachers to first-year teachers.
I feel like I've grown so much as an educator with having an MCL. The support, the mentoring, it's not just during coaching time, it's all the time. Now that I've had one, I can't imagine working without one.
You get someone that works directly with you, and it's not the instructional coach who's working with the entire school, but you have someone that's targeted to give you what you need when you need it.
So with a multi-classroom leader, you are guaranteeing that your teachers are being really coached from good to great. No matter how many years they've been teaching, everybody can benefit from this.
Again, I hope this video got you excited. It definitely makes me excited about the work that I did as an MCL. All right, so there are two types of MCLs who have different methods of gaining release time. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I thought it's important to touch on this. There are partial release MCLs, so they continue to teach a class of record. They get release time from a reach associate, as we mentioned earlier, that role, which is just like a teaching assistant, an advanced teaching assistant, and they tend to have smaller teams. Full release MCLs have flexible time all day long without a classroom of record, so they can take on larger teams of teachers. This is dependent upon the school. Again, all these plans are created by the school design team, and so that team decides what type of MCL is most appropriate for their school. Early opportunity culture implementation posted really exciting results. So an independent study was done that across the country for MCLs that were in place. And they saw really strong learning gains for small teams of groups or for students led by multi-classroom leaders. So here you can see this data. Teachers on average that started off in the 50th percentile in terms of student learning gains jumped dramatically when on MCL teams. So here you can see they jump from the 66th to 72nd percentile in reading, and the equivalent teachers from the 75th to 85th percentile in math. So huge gains in student learning on MCL teams. So I know the meat of why you're here is to hear from a current MCL. So now that I'm done through my little spiel, I'm going to open it up to Ms. Dixon. So she is here to answer any questions that you have about this role. Again, I was a former MCL, but I've been out of that role for a while. She's in the thick of it right now. So please feel free to unmute yourself or put any questions for her in the chat box.
Right, I do see a question there. And okay, so what's the starting pay? So I don't know if you heard earlier where this is a district base. So the pay is dependent, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Erin, is dependent on what your district decides, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it would start with you earn the teacher's salary plus a stipend. And those stipends are determined by each school district. So you would need to click on that individual link. So it's that district's pay plus the stipend.
Right, and that depends on how many teachers you work with. So for example, my first 2 years and even half of this year, I worked with just 3 teachers. And it was in October, we saw the need to reach more teachers. So I took on 3 more teachers then, and of course, the rate went up then.
All right, we have another question. If we are an MCL, will we have a choice of school based on if the school needs a partial or full release MCL? Ms. Dixon, do you know how to answer that? If not, I'm happy to.
Right, okay. I'm not sure of any school districts within, if you're in the Vance County, I'm not sure if any have been partial release. let me tell the process I went through. So when we did our initial interview, and that's an interview because that's a real interview there, you answer all these various questions, and then because you have principals at the table, and then principals from different schools will contact you as a follow-up based on the interest they see. So you might, for example, I had 4 principals who reached out to me. I was able to pick my preference. Now it's going to go back to the needs at that time, maybe because let's say you only have one school coming up the school year who needs an MCL, then of course you might be placed there. So not necessarily that you have the choice, but in our time, I'm not sure if it has changed. I was able to say, I'm sorry, but I already accepted this position at the school I'm currently teaching at.
All right, so I see a similar question. What schools will we be assigned to in Wilson County? So like Ms. Dixon just mentioned, each district has a pool. So you would apply to be in the pool for Wilson County, Vance County, whatever county you're interested in. That's the first step. So we're gonna get into this more in just a second and some future slides. But then once you're into the pool, you then would be interview at each school. So no, this is not one of those programs where you just assign and then you're randomly put at schools. You have some choice, and you could get into the MCL pool and then interview at schools and then not be accepted or you might get multiple offers, and then you're able to choose which school you would want to be an MCL at. I hope that answers that question. How will we know if we start off as a full release or partial release? Ms. Dixon, do you want to talk about your experience and how that was kind of explained to you throughout the process?
Right, so each school has a model, and I don't know if you heard me say earlier, they're doing our design phase. So what we do is we go through a phase with opportunity culture, and we design based on our various needs. And depending on the needs of the school, for example, when we just started, we did 3-5 reading and math, and now we are K-5 reading and math. So it all depends on the need for that period of time. And they will let you know if they're partial release or full release. And when you look on the employment opportunity, you will see whether they are looking for a full release or a partial release multi-classroom leader. For the most part, I have experienced, like I said, full release. I know some districts, they 1 or 2 who we have met with, they have been partial release, but for the most part, I have seen full release MCLs, but I will say some do have partial release. And you'll know upfront in the hiring process.
Yeah, they're both great opportunities. So I served as both a partial release and a full release MCL. So just based on the needs of my school, my role morphed different years slightly. I was a high school MCL, so the end goal every year was still for me to support all of the biology teachers in my school. However, it looked slightly different just depending on enrollment numbers and things like that. So I wouldn't be scared of the partial release versus full release. They're both great opportunities.
Right, I've heard from both, and like I said, they balance. If you're a partial release, then of course that's where the reach associate comes in, and very important. So again, it goes back to the model you have in place. You will not necessarily just have a partial release and not have someone to support your kids while you're out. So definitely, like I said, it goes back to the model. And with the partial release also, you're given your time, and it was said earlier, you're working with a smaller number of teachers, and you're given the time to work with those teachers as well as maintain your record.
All right, there's a question about stipends. If you go to the parking lot, there are links to every school district, and each school district stipend is slightly different. So you'd want to check in whatever school district you're interested in. They range. We're going to show you the range in just a second. Is this sort of like an instructional coach? Ms. Dixon, do you want to maybe highlight the differences of this and an instructional coach position?
Right. So somewhat and not so much. You're developing teacher leaders. And of course, you are, I know with instructional coach, your focus is just directly the instruction piece. And you are working not necessarily with this focus that we have. We're about teacher leadership and student growth. So we want to impact teachers that will impact student growth. And we have this vision, and like I said, we have this mission that we work with, And it is more so, again, instructional coaches might work with 12 teachers, a whole team of teachers. As you heard Erin say, the majority, the maximum we will work with will be 6 teachers. And definitely there are some differences. There are going to be some similarities because the focus is, of course, instruction, but you're looking at strategic practices that will improve student performance. And of course, you're working on teacher leadership. And Erin can just say if anything I missed there.
That was perfect. I have a slide I'll show at the final Q&A. We're going to return to the main room. Some of these questions coming through will be answered, and there'll be a final Q&A at the end for any unanswered questions as well. All right, see you back in the main room.